Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. Before I get started, just a quick pulse check. Who in the room is an educator? Awesome. Is anybody here a district administrator or superintendent? Okay. I think the educators might like this presentation a little bit more, but it's a good thing we've got so many educators in the room. Glad you're all here. Thank you very much. My name is Ethan Gray. I'm the founder and CEO of Education Cities, which is a national nonprofit network of 28 city-based organizations working in 22 cities across the country, all trying to accelerate the growth of high-quality public schools in America. And I believe that educators should run every school in this country, and that if they did, there would be some really big implications for school districts and the way that we structure school systems in America. I want to tell you what I mean by educator-led schools for a second. Some of you may have read an op-ed in the Washington Post recently about educator-led schools. Mentioned a school in St. Paul, Minnesota called the Avalon School. It's a charter school that has 28 teachers, and those teachers make every meaningful decision about what happens in the school. They decide what curriculum to use, what pedagogy to pursue. They decide on the staffing model, on what the calendar should be, what the academic calendar should be. And because of this, they are able to create an intentional community in their school that is mission-driven, where parents can access a school that fits the needs of their kids, and where educators know that the people that they're working with share a common vision for how they think education can best be delivered. It's a project-based learning approach at Avalon. For graduating seniors, they have to do a 300-hour final project and then a big presentation at the end of the year. And as a result of sort of the mission alignment of the staff, they're able to achieve some really impressive results. At Avalon, students are performing at twice the rates in ELA and science as they are in surrounding local public schools. And there's a 95% teacher persistence rate year over year. So people like to work there and they want to stay there. I'm not using Avalon as an example because I think that all schools should be project-based learning schools or because the particular pedagogical approach here is the right approach. It's an example because it shows what happens when educators are given the ability to make key decisions about what happens in their community, and what happens when parents are able to choose schools that fit the mission that they're seeking for their kids. And so we started asking a question: how could we get more cities to have more schools like Avalon? Could we have a city that had all schools like Avalon? And again, not project-based learning schools per se, but mission-driven schools where educators got way more ability to make key decisions about what happened in their school. We had an opportunity to explore this question when the Missouri Board of Education hired our organization to help them think about how to intervene in the Kansas City public school system, where 70% of kids are below proficient in reading and math and have been for generations. The project that we took on tried to answer one basic question, which is, if you look at the highest performing urban schools in the country, what are the conditions that have enabled them to be successful? And are there any commonalities that we can look at? So our research team, in partnership with Public Impact, looked at high-performing urban charter schools, district schools, unionized schools, non-unionized schools, all across the country. We weren't dogmatic about the model or about the philosophical approach of the school. What we wanted to figure out was, do the high performers operate under a different set of conditions? And what we found is, almost universally, high-performing urban public schools operate under the conditions of educator autonomy and accountability. Educators have the opportunity to decide what the staffing model should be, what the curriculum should be, what the pedagogical approach should be, how long the school should be in session, what the school calendar should look like, etc. And then the system holds them accountable for meaningful student achievement results. We also, as part of our project, talked to a wide variety of stakeholders in Kansas City. We talked to parent groups, we talked to district groups, union groups, we talked to community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, et cetera. We had a whole bunch of focus groups with lots of different stakeholders because we wanted to figure out how could a school system meet the additional priorities that a community may have that the current system isn't meeting. And what we heard was that people wanted to be able to pay teachers more. They wanted to be able to lower class sizes. They wanted to be able to provide wraparound services to kids growing up in poverty. They wanted to be able to have every 3- and 4-year-old access high-quality pre-K so they could come ready to learn when they entered the K-12 system. And the current system wasn't meeting those priorities. In fact, very few urban school systems in the country are able to meet these priorities the way that they are currently configured. And so how can we merge these two ideas, creating the conditions for success around being educator-run and accountable schools, while also meeting the priorities that we heard the community leaders in Kansas City articulate? The current system, as it's structured, is a command and control top-down bureaucracy that deprofessionalizes teaching. It makes it really hard for educators to control what they do and make meaningful decisions about the kids that they know best, in part because these are monolithic government institutions that are built to perpetuate a certain idea about how schools should be structured and led and managed, et cetera. The budget, as you can imagine, is really, really big. What if the system as it is today, which is sort of represented on the left there, were focused on just a few core activities that aligned with the conditions for success? And what if we reallocated budgets accordingly? So in our proposed system, we focused the school district on a very small set of activities, on holding schools accountable by having every school on a performance contract that guaranteed the educators in that school autonomy, providing universal pre-K for every 3- and 4-year-old, and providing a transportation system so a child can access any public school in the city. We found that we could reallocate $156 million from the big central office to the school level, which means that educators at the school level would go from controlling $800 per kid to $10,000 per kid. It's a shift of 5% to 65% of discretionary funding. With that kind of reallocation from big bureaucracy to school level, we could achieve all of the priorities that the community set out around paying teachers more, lowering class sizes, providing wraparound services. For example, we found that in a model school in Kansas City, we could increase teacher pay by 15% while decreasing class size by 15% and providing wraparound services by engaging with a nursing organization and a dental organization and a social services organization to meet the needs of kids growing up in poverty. Schools ought to be able to make those decisions for themselves. Some schools might want to lengthen the school day in the school year. Some might want to dramatically lower class sizes but keep teacher pay baseline to what the district average is now. The point is, the system shouldn't tell teachers what day to be on what page of what book and when and how in every level of granular detail. So what does this mean for parents? In this system, it means that parents could access any public school in the city through the transportation system, and there'd be a far wider range of school models because educators would get the chance to build the schools that they thought would meet the needs of their kids. So we would expect to see more Montessori schools, project-based learning schools, STEM schools, African-themed schools, a variety of different models to meet the needs that the educators see coming out of the communities that they're trying to serve. What would it mean for educators? It would mean they would have meaningful professional autonomy for the first time. They would be treated like the professionals who know what they're doing that they actually are, and they'd be given the opportunity to design schools and lead schools like Al Shanker envisioned the original charter school notion being back in the 1970s, educator-led and autonomous. And what does it mean for districts? This is where it gets a little tricky, because it means if you're a savvy superintendent or a district administrator and you're in a big urban system, it means you're really rethinking what your role is. Your role no longer is telling educators what to do with every second of their day. Your job is ensuring they have the conditions for success, that they can operate schools autonomously, that they can be held meaningfully accountable for ensuring students are learning, but then you get out of the way and you let them do their job. At the end of the day, the simple truth is we don't need big urban school districts anymore to do what they've been doing for the past 100 years. We don't need command and control bureaucracies dictating every little detail of what educators do in the classroom. We need a cultural shift that allows educators to be the professionals that they are, that gives parents access to the schools that they want, and that lets the educational decisions get made by the people who are closest to the kids every day, and that's their educators. Thanks so much.